Well,
All right.
gentlemen, we're live.
Excited.
Okay, you have the whole mic set up. I love that.
Dude, I was just telling Gav and Zach that like they were giving them out at work, and I was just like, oh, I could make some use out of that. So I like picked up one.
No way. That's
And then
awesome.
yeah, and then I was also telling them I like sort of feel like Jim Nantz or something right now. Like I have like the full like sports broadcasting setup on right now. I feel mad weird.
It's professional though. I like it.
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel I feel
trying.
like we gotta break the ice a little. Like, should we spitball some ideas or just get right into conversation as we normally do?
Let's just be natural.
Yeah.
Act normal, guys. Act normal. Um, Gavin and I were in Las Vegas this past week. Have you guys ever been out there?
I
Yeah,
haven't.
I've been there. I've been there like 3 or 4 times. I've gone to conferences. That's an interesting city. Did you guys go into the Sphere? We didn't go in the Sphere. We walked around it,
Mm.
and
Mm.
then we went up down. Have you ever been to like Old Vegas, Fremont Street?
Mm.
I have. That is like a dystopia, Fremont Street. That place is crazy.
I
Yeah,
I hate that place.
the whole thing is just like on the plane ride home, I was like, my soul needs a shower. Like I just felt so like yeah by the whole place. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting though, that place. It's like it's low key though, huge. I don't know why you guys were there. Maybe it was for fun or whatever, but like as an entertainment and like business, the way they like intersect, like so I stayed at the Aria for a conference and was like obviously it's like huge, right? These casinos, and then you're like, okay, like, oh, I'm going to the conference wing of the casino, and it's like just as big as the casinos are like the conference areas, and you're like realize just like how much of an industry and like how much it all supports each other, like how they're really like after the conference, what are you gonna do? Like most likely go and gamble because like there's not much else to do, and then like you go out to these restaurants and they're like 5-star restaurants, but they're huge. They're literally like food court, massive, like these restaurants. And it's literally like, oh, maybe you won money gambling. Okay, now you'll take your winnings to dinner and then we'll suck that money out of you that way. Like, there's no way you like come out of Vegas positive in money, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And like they just plan it so well. Like the accommodations are cheap, the flights are cheap. Like the startup cost is just so cheap that I mean, they're gonna make money off you no matter what, but I'm actually going back on Wednesday. So a lot of Vegas for me. I don't know if it's too much, but honestly, it's a conference at Mandalay Bay. So it'll be it'll be good. I mean, the conference itself will be good, but I'll try to keep in the positive as much as possible. It's tough.
And to your point, Felipe, on the conferences, um, I remember hearing about how the hotels, I mean, let's say that you run a conference business normally, right? You expect to pay overhead to rent a space. Gavin and I went to a conference at the Javits Center. I'm sure that they pay the Javits Center a big check to be there. But for the conferences in Las Vegas, apparently the convention center will give you either free space or they'll pay you to bring your conference there if it's like a known moneymaker.
yeah.
Because to your point, they want bodies cycling through.
Yeah. To me, it's also like almost so I hate part of it, like when you get like a room and then like you check the water. It's like Fiji water is $20. And it's like you know that it's geared towards like some 18-year-old who or not 18, 21-year-old who partied way too hard, woke up and is like, where's the water? And like, you know, like boom, $20 here, $20 there. That to me, that part of like how they suck money out of you that way, I guess it works because like Vegas is still going, but like I don't know, that just like leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like I didn't drink the water, I didn't need to do that, but it just all of that put together just to me is it's terrible. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a lot based around like human psychology, just making bad decisions so easy.
yeah.
But also at like the macro level, I was telling Zach this, but like, do you guys think Vegas could be almost like the amount of people in Vegas could be a KPI for like macroeconomic trends, like how well or bad the economy is doing, like how many people are going through Vegas, spending their dollars.
I thought I'd read somewhere that those things are, I don't know if it's true, but I think they're recession proof, like the gambling places. I might be wrong. I'd have to check up on that, especially now that we're recording them. But like, I, I'm pretty sure that usually it doesn't like affect them too bad. But I know that they're trying to get out of gambling, right? Because like they have the F1 now in
Mhm.
November, and like it's really easy for them to build a track because like everything's desert there. So it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll just take this like thing and make it in. And then the Sphere and the UFC, now they have the Raiders. Like I think they're just trying to make it now though, uh like an actual city. Like not like, like some
There's gambling in all of those things, though.
it's true.
Good point. And to that point, it reminds me of like the Gulf states that oil is their bread and butter in the same way that in Las Vegas, gambling is their bread and butter, but they understand the need to diversify. I also was noting that it seems to skew a lot older. And that leads me to believe that people in our generation kind of see through the illusion of Las Vegas or of just those things in general
Maybe we
more
don't
than
have money to
the big.
gamble yet.
That could be a factor as well. But my friends like sports bet all the time. I don't know if are you guys sports bettors?
From time to time. If I see something that I can win from, some arbitrage or something. One of my best friends actually lives in Vegas. Nick Seward. I don't know if you know him, Zach. I know you definitely don't know him, Gav, but I know you know him as well, Felipe.
He lives in
Um,
Vegas? Whoa.
yeah, yeah, he's been out there for a little over a year now. He was actually in New York about a couple of weeks ago. He was visiting me, and it was a great time. I took him to this house game that we go to, and this house poker game that I go to. And like there, all my buddies there asking him 100 questions and stuff like that. And he introduced me to the game. So I expect to get out there eventually. I just need some cash flow first or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean it's definitely an interesting place.
yeah.
But I did a class in college, like an elective abroad, and the topic was postmodernism, which was interesting, and the teacher was great at building things up and blowing your mind with certain facts. But the class was in Dubai, which is a very um, interesting city as well because it was essentially a bunch of nomadic tribes one generation ago, 2 generations ago, and now it's this metropolis, utopic, um, kind of like something out of nothing. And the professor the whole time said that in his mind, Dubai is the number two best example for a postmodern city, and the number one is Las Vegas, which is interesting.
So is he just saying from like an architectural perspective?
Now, just like overall, in terms of um, like the how in Las Vegas there's a lot of uh recreations of famous things. There's a whole casino called New York, New York, where they recreate the
Yeah.
New York skyline.
Yeah.
There's the artificial Eiffel Tower. Even like the food there just seems artificial to me. The whole place, something doesn't sit right with me. I can't exactly put my finger or verbalize what it is, but it seems like uh, one of those cases where there's more under the veneer of the surface than meets the eye.
Yeah. Have you been to Dubai?
Yes.
Okay. Gav, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
What'd you think about it, Zach?
I thought that it was, I mean, this is in a similar vein to Vegas, like it's all great on the surface, but you get a feeling like there's something a level deeper that you're not seeing the full picture of.
Yeah. It's weird. It's just like it's like everything's like there to shop, but it's not like a real city. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't feel like there's like a middle class or like, you know what I mean? Like normal people. It's just like all like extraordinary people, like all entrepreneurs or like, you know, because there's a lot of people from like Europe who want to escape from like taxes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know. It's a different vibe. That's yeah, I don't know if I could live. I definitely wouldn't be able to live in Vegas, but I don't know about Dubai. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Zach, do you think you could live in Dubai? I know
No,
you're answering
neither
to Vegas, but
neither one of them. For me, I mean, for
uh,
me, as I grow older, and I'd be curious to hear your guys' perception too, I appreciate the roots of community more and more and the people around me. And Gavin and I were talking about how cities um, have things that they optimize for, right? In New York, you're optimizing for money. In um, Los Angeles, you're optimizing for fame. In Washington, you're optimizing for political power. What are you optimizing for in Las Vegas? They call it Sin City, you know?
yeah.
So no, I wouldn't live in either one of those places. But do you guys think that that applies? Do you think that the city environment allows you to optimize for one characteristic more than another?
Micah,
I
what
mean,
do you think?
I
You've been in New York, huh?
Yeah, no, I think to that point, and sort of how I try to live my life is, and then even sort of with this podcast is asymmetries, right? Like things how where there's little downside and a huge upside. And I think a lot of cities sort of offer that, right? Where it's what you said, like New York, sort of finance, big law, opportunities, the Bay Area, entrepreneurship, innovation, and then in DC, some, more of that political power. So um I think finding opportunities in cities where you have that potential is very important. And I definitely find that really big in New York. There's events, there's, speakers, there's all types of things. Even going outside every day seems like a type of opportunity to meet someone you would probably never meet if you were in rural Mississippi or something. So,
Micah, I hope you disagree with this point, but I've been reading a book called Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, and he was talking about how like in the 1800s, basically 20% of the US lived in cities, and now about 84% of the population lives in cities, and they were measuring the happiness level. I know it's very arbitrary, but they were measuring happiness level in cities, and guess what city ranked 318 out of 318?
was it New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of things factor into that, right? Like,
Hmm.
being young in New York is great. I mean, I live in a shoebox, but I get to go outside. I have the park right here. There's a lot of things that I really like. But if I had kids, for instance, one day I aspire to have kids, I wouldn't want to fucking live in Manhattan, right? So, I think it depends or focus on a lot of what you want. Um, and you sort of go from there.
Hmm.
You know what's interesting is I like looked at I was reading yesterday and I saw like a list like the Wall Street Journal best startup like cities out there. And like so like for all the like shit talk of San Jose, San Francisco, they ranked other than it said Seattle was number one. Like which I was like,
Really?
okay, like well, yeah, I guess it's like Amazon, Microsoft, right? Like I guess it's a really underrated city, like Seattle, but like San Jose was second and San Francisco was like third. And like there were other cities that you would guess, like Austin was coming up on there. San Diego, Zach, I know you're out there. I was pretty surprised to see that, but like I don't know, like it's just weird. Like you feel though from afar, like oh, San Fran and San Jose is this like hellhole, whatever. Like I guess it's from the media, right? But like they're still going at it. Like they're still innovating, they're still creating stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, I think that that's a big factor in our life right now as ambitious young guys is like, where do you want to live? And that your environment definitely has an effect. So parsing through the noise, because I know even for New York, there's so much noise.
Oh my God.
But do you like you don't feel like it's unsafe hellhole in the way that some of the media makes out to be, Micah, from the way I take it?
Yeah, I think with even like, every time you see San Francisco, for instance, right, it's all the tenderloins, all the homeless people. But I got a buddy out there who says it's beautiful, especially this time, um, of the year. I think what happens a lot is there's so, especially in New York, right? There's so many people on this quote unquote rat race that it's all about, how can I, make the most money? How can I, flex on the person that I'm walking, past in the street? It's a lot of that, right? And like you said the perfect thing for it. You said noise. That's all it is, man. Once you get over the noise, you're golden. But it's hard. I mean, it's not easy to do, right? And that's sort of the difficulty I find living here. It's like it's all there's so many things going on that it's like you're constantly being like, sizing yourself up. But once you can get out of that, dude, you're fucking golden. No one can mess with you, I think.
Do you think it's like very difficult to not compare yourself to others in a city? Like I find it the more, I guess, like sparse the population is just like spread out, it's just
Hmm.
so much easier to kind of focus on yourself and what you're doing. And in
Hmm.
New York, I mean, you're just surrounded by everything at all
Hmm.
times.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think everyone has ego, right? Once you can get over that ego, I mean, it's all going to
Yeah.
zero anyways, right? Like, you might as well just do what you want to do and not do it, not work at the consulting or the finance or whatever, just because society tells you to do, I feel like life's a single player game, right? I always reiterate that. But if you can focus on that and start there and work backwards, I think you're golden. But it's hard to do. It's not easy. I'm still working on it.
Yeah,
You both are there, and I'm sort of envious of you guys. And I really, aspire to be like that one day. Um, but I think it always goes back to sort of what Zach talked about and like exposure, right? It's the people who you're around, the people who you conversate with. And if you start there and go from there, you'll be all right.
for sure. And Felipe, like with all of your experience in other countries and other cities with completely different just values and foundations, do you think that helps you on your perception of like living in a US city in terms of like what you value?
Yeah. So like for me what's interesting is okay, you appreciate US cities like when you go to like Africa or something, right? Like it's like in like Juba, South Sudan, there is no theater, there's no movie theater, there is no like tennis court. Like I don't like, like you can just like go and like have fun. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of limited there, right? So at least for like a Westerner going there. And even like locals tell me about that. So there's that. But I do get perspective, like, I mean, I go down to Argentina every once in a while, and like I visit my cousins, and I've been in like Buenos Aires, and you guys went there and everything, and it is kind of one of those cities that's like, I don't know, when you're like meeting all those people, you're like, oh, these people are like very similar to me. Like it's a very like educated place. Everyone's very warm, and you kind of like look at it and you're like this is a place like I could have like grown up in, you know, and would have had
Mhm.
like fond memories of being like a part of a community like this. So like I guess it does give you perspective. Like, and Argentina is like pretty bad, and like
Mhm.
it's beyond the media, right? It's like 40. I think they have the election today actually for the new
Really?
president. So yeah, so we'll see if the right wing Malay wins. But
Javier.
yeah, but I mean, I guess just overall, like getting that perception and that perspective, you kind of go like, okay, like you can do this in a lot of different places, and it doesn't have to be the wealthiest, most like affluent place in the world to be like growing up or anything, right? Like I'm sure Silicon Valley's Palo Alto is fantastic for startups, but like I don't know how that translates over to like children growing up. Like it's probably very normal
Right.
being a child in Palo Alto, yeah. Like so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think it's a lot on where you're at in life and your experience. Like if you go to the city like Buenos Aires and you're, going to the nicest hotels and the nicest restaurants and you're in that stage of life, like it's going to be much different. But then for like Zach and I, when we went down there, we were living with one of the people, like one of the mothers in Buenos Aires, and it was just a completely different perspective because we're like, oh, how is this inflation affecting you? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm I'm struggling. Like this is not easy. So it's definitely experiential, of course, and individual, but it's good to travel. I mean, perception is always evolving.
Yeah, to kind of course change from the topic of geographic locations and cities, I'm very curious, Felipe. I didn't know that the Argentine election was today, but I'm keen to see if that guy wins.
I don't know if he'll even be able to govern. Like because he would
Really?
because if he wins, he wouldn't have like like I think he would have 18 people in Congress. Um, so like he wouldn't have a majority to like because I mean what he wants to do is abolish the like federal government of Argentina. Like I mean like and like get rid of the Argentine peso. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't want there to exist or whatever. So um like I don't know who would vote onto that because like presumably there's a lot of people who have special interests like with some of these things, you know. So yeah, I don't know, but like I mean Argentina's not doing well anyways. So
Mhm.
like I think a lot of people are like, well, we might as well roll the dice and see what happens. So he
Yeah.
might win. Yeah.
For context, Mike and Gavin, I don't know if you've seen this guy on social media, but he's pretty much the antithesis of what the Argentine political class has been doing for the past number of decades, where he's saying, hey, let's take all the government programs, cut them, stop spending on a lot of the welfare stuff, cut out all these agencies, peg the Argentine peso back to the US dollar to get rid of the inflation. And that's something that when Gavin and I earlier this year, and when we were talking to people, they just didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. They didn't see a way out because there was a thought that there is no political appetite for somebody saying that. Because if you're an average person that's relying on the government for your daily bread, why would you
Mhm.
vote for somebody who's going to cut that, right?
Right.
So it's interesting to me to see if he wins, less so like politically and if he can get things done, but more so ideologically, because that signals to me that there's a shift in people understanding that the party's kind of over. And obviously, to a lesser extent, we have that in our country where there's just spending on end, right? And it
Right.
seems like there's no recourse to it. And I think the political ideology has been, yeah, you can't win telling people that you're going to take money out of their pocket
Right.
and that there's going to be less money flowing through the system. But I think that could be a signal from Argentina that the tide is turning there and that people really do value fiscal responsibility.
Right. So what? We got a minute and 25 seconds left.
Yeah, unfortunately, the free version only gives you a time limit, so
Okay, well,
guess we'll have to
perfect.
wrap things up.
I think that's fine for the pilot episode. One of many iterations to come. I'm super excited. I need to like figure out this like headset thing. I'm like,
Sound
feel like
good.
I'm like,
You sound good, Micah. You sound like I think like the best in terms of like how your voice is coming across.
yeah, we might all need to get one. I mean, let's do it. But one of many iterations to come. I'm super excited. Been waiting for
Yeah.
this for a while, so I'm happy
I think
we made it happen.
once we break 5 listeners, once we have one additional listener to ask for, then that will necessitate
Yeah.
a professional setup.
This is beautiful.
Right. All right.
yeah.
Well, it's gonna be out in the world, and that's a vote for what we want to do. So that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Let's
But
do it. Vamos.
all
All
right.
right.
Boys.
So yeah.